Welcome. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on academic writing. We'll be breaking down a really crucial skill called genre analysis, specifically looking at how you can decode the hidden rules and strategies that make argumentative essays so persuasive. So, let's start with this question right here. I want you to think of genre analysis as a kind of detective work. Seriously. You're not just reading the words on the page, you're on a mission to uncover the hidden conventions, those unwritten rules that make a piece of writing actually work within a specific community. It's all about figuring out the how and the why behind the text.
So, here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off with a quick introduction to the whole process. Then we're going to dive into the three core parts of the analysis: understanding the context, examining the structure, and decoding the very specific language choices a writer makes. And then, at the end, we'll see how to bring it all together in a really powerful synthesis.
Okay, let's get into it. The key to a good genre analysis, and I mean a really good one, is having a system. It's not about just pointing out random things. It's about following a clear, methodical process. This four-step process is gonna be our framework. Think of it like this. We start wide with a bird's eye view by situating the text in its social world. Then we zoom in to look at its architecture, its structure. After that, we go almost microscopic, decoding the writer's specific language cues. And finally, we zoom all the way back out to synthesize our findings, connecting all the dots. Let's start with that first big step, situating the text. Why? Because a piece of writing never, ever exists in a vacuum. To really get it, we have to look beyond the words on the page and start to examine the world it was born into. The discourse analyst Brian Paltridge outlines this perfectly. A deep analysis really starts here. You have to ask yourself, where does this text live? What's its purpose? Who is it for? And what's the relationship between the person writing and the person reading? Getting a handle on these contextual factors is so important because they shape literally every choice the writer makes.
Okay, next up, we shift our focus from the context around the text to the text itself. Now we're looking at the architecture of the argument. How has the writer actually built this thing to achieve their goal?
And this slide illustrates a super important distinction. The generic structure is like the overall blueprint of the genre. For an essay, that's your classic intro, body, and conclusion. Easy enough. But the rhetorical structure, that's about the specific patterns used inside that blueprint, like a problem-solution format, or maybe a compare and contrast argument. A great analysis looks at both.
This brings us to what is probably the most detailed part of our analysis: meta-discourse. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of how writers use language to guide their readers, and, maybe more importantly, to express their own voice and stance within the text.
So what does that actually mean? Well, the crucial point is this. Meta-discourse is basically discourse about discourse. It's the language writers use to talk about their own writing. Think of it as the writer stepping out from behind the curtain for a moment to say, hey, here's what I'm doing now, or, by the way, here's how I feel about this. Now, meta-discourse can be split into two key functions. You have your interactive resources, which are all about organization. They're the signposts that guide you through the argument like a map. And then you have your interactional resources, which are all about the social side, how the writer manages their relationship and their conversation with you, the reader. What's really cool about this slide is how it breaks down those organizational tools. You've got transitions, like thus and but, that create those logical links. Then you have frame markers, like to conclude, which flat out tell you the structure. And evidentials, like according to so-and-so, show you where the info's coming from. These are the nuts and bolts of a really well-guided argument.
And here we've got the other side of the coin, the tools for engagement. I love this part. Just look at the contrast between hedges like might, which kind of opens a topic up for debate, and boosters like definitely, which try to shut it down. Attitude markers reveal how the writer really feels, and engagement markers like consider or note speak directly to you, pulling you right into the conversation. All right, so we've analyzed the context, we've analyzed the structure, and we've analyzed the meta-discourse. Now it's time for the final and most crucial step: bringing it all together into a coherent, insightful synthesis. Because look, the ultimate goal isn't just to make a laundry list of the features you found. The real goal is to explain why those features are there. It's all about asking, so what, about every single observation you make. How does the writer's use of boosters, for example, connect back to their purpose and their relationship with the audience? Are they trying to sound like an authority? Making these deep connections is what separates a good analysis from a truly great one. And so, we end with this question. This whole analytical skill set, it's not just some dry academic exercise. By learning to decode the conventions of a genre, you gain the power to use those same conventions in your own writing. Understanding the rules is the first step to mastering them, and ultimately, it's the first step to becoming a more effective and persuasive communicator in any field you choose.